Hello, book lovers and English learners. Welcome to a new episode of the podcast Read in English. I'm Lydie Bureau and I'm an English teacher in France and the founder of Lydie's Book Club, a book club for non-native English speakers who want to practice and improve their English through deep reading and conversation. Each month, I host an online conversation via Zoom for about an hour and a half to discuss the chapters of the book, to um develop your English speaking, and also share ideas and opinion on books. And also, I'm here to correct your English, answer any question you might have around the book and passages that you might not understand. So, as a member, you will be able to join these online conversations. Of course, if you want to have a go at it and you want to try the book club, then you'll be able to join one of these online conversation to do a book club taster session. There is one at the end of the month on the 27th of September. You just subscribe to the newsletter. You don't need to become a member yet to attend the first book club taster session. So the first one will be on the 27th of September. And in the meantime, so once you subscribe to the newsletter, you will get the link to attend for free. Yeah. And have a go and try and meet us as well. Also, when you become a member, then you get exclusive invitation to online meet and greets events with female authors, and also, and that's a new event or something new that is happening next year. We will do our first literary trip to England in April 2026. And for that, you need to become a member. If you want to know more about the program, you can go on my web. It will soon. I'll have the information on my website and in the newsletter. So if you want to get information about the book club taster session and a future book club trip, then subscribe to the newsletter. And if you want to be part of our next trip, then you will have to become a member. But for now, you can just sign up to the newsletter and see if you like it. So in September, we will read this book, Lolly Willowes by Sylvia Townsend Warner. And in this video today, I'm going to tell you why you should read this book too. So if you are just starting reading in English, whether you are a non-native English speaker or a native English speaker, maybe you don't know about this book, and maybe you're not someone that reads a lot or doesn't have a lot of time to read. This is a short book. It's only 160 pages, and it is perfect if you're someone who would like to read classics, but this is a modern classic. But you don't necessarily want to read adaptations. All right, you'd rather to read the original text. So this book could actually suit you. This book is what we call a modern classic, initially published in 1926. This is a new edition from 2020 by Penguin Modern Classics Collection. So all the books from Sylvia Townsend Warner have been republished. And look at this beautiful cover. I love the painting here. It is an illustration, yeah, or what? It's a paint. Is it a painting? Yeah, yeah. It's from um, Dora and Betty. There is always the country. it dates from the 1928, from 1928. Anyway, so if we wanted to describe Lolly Willowes, this book, in simple terms, we would say this is the story of a single woman in post-war England who leaves London to become a witch in spite of her family disapproval. But this wouldn't do justice to the book and its author, Sylvia Townsend Warner, this lady. So I would say that it tells more about the fate of a young woman who, after the death of her father, is completely dispossessed of her own belongings, financial means. In some, she's dispossessed of her own life. But in her mid-40s, she has an awakening and decides to take back control of her life. So I would say that if you're into witchcraft or witches and witches history, you will like this book, but it's not so much about the history of witches. It approaches the topics of witches and their rituals, etc. But I would say it's more about a woman's story. If you simply care about stories on women and their struggle in the early 20th century, then you will like this book. So Lolly, the main character, is similar to has some similarities to the author because she was adored by her father as well. And the loss of him is a tragedy. Because it also means that she has to say goodbye to her old life in the countryside with him, because when he passed away, she was living with him. And before he passed away, she was living with him and had some freedom. And so she has to say goodbye to this old life of freedom in the countryside, to the constraint of the city of London, where she has to live with her brother and his family. And there is a beautiful quote to illustrates or translates her feelings very perfectly, I would say. So this is this quote. I'm going to read that quote. Her father, so it's page 6. Her father being dead, they took it for granted that she should be absorbed into the household of one brother or the other. And Laura, which is her real name, and Lolly is a nickname that her nieces and nephews gave to her. And Laura, feeling rather as if she were a piece of family property forgotten in the will, was ready to be disposed of as they should think best. So you can see here that she's almost like a piece of furniture in a house. Yeah. So once she arrives in London, she is immediately put to work by her sister-in-law Caroline, and she can't escape it. And there is this great quote. So as you can see, I annotate my book. I love it. When I was young, I was very worried and afraid almost to annotate my books. And now I don't write in pen, except, well, if I underline things, but I like to write in pencil. But now I just don't care. I annotate. It's your book. You do whatever you want in your book. If you want to write in pencil, or highlight like this, then just do it. Unless you want to read your book and then give it charity, give it back to charity. If you, I know that there are some people who don't like to write in their books because they don't like to keep their books. As you can see, I've got my little bookshelf, and I like to keep my books as, I don't know, it feels, I like to keep my book. So I write in it. And for me, it's something precious. And I don't really like to share my books. Anyway, so this is the quote in which we can see that Caroline put everyone to work and that Laura finds herself in the mechanism of it, in the whole machinery of Caroline's daily life and and routine. Yeah. So that's page 30. But as Caroline said, it was not possible to feel dull when there was so much to do. Indeed, it was surprising how much there was to do, and for everybody in the house. Even Laura, introduced Even Laura, introduced as a sort of extra wheel, soon found herself part of the mechanism and interworking with the other wheels went around as busily as they. So it really feels that she's like a hamster in a wheel, and that she can't escape it, and that she has to follow the rhythm and get along with it, and get along with the task that she has to do, whether if it's needlework or looking after the kids. Yeah. So she's not staying at their place to feel idle. She's there to have purpose, to be useful. There is needlework, embroidery, and most importantly, looking after the children. So during her stay, Lolly is going to be, during her stay in London at her brother's house, she's going to be very critical of her brother as well, describing him as arrogant and full of vanity, to a certain extent that she's saying that marrying Caroline and also his pursuit in law made him even more full of himself than he already was. And I like this passage as well, because this is why if you like, you have, if you read this book, um, you have to be, it's best if you are able to get how the sarcasm and the irony in her writing. If you're able to pick up this, or to spot these illusions, then you will appreciate even more. But that depends on your level of English. It doesn't matter really if you don't grasp the whole different levels of the meaning, of a passage, of a certain passage in the text. But um but maybe at some point later, if you keep on reading English in English, then if you decide at some point to reread it, maybe you missed out some passages or you want to go back to it, then reread the book, and I guarantee you that you will appreciate even more the second reading. This happened to me when I reread Jane Austen. I remembered that I was able to appreciate more the passages, some passages, and things that I hadn't noticed in the first reading. So be kind to yourself. English is not your first language, and you have the right to not understand everything. Even native speakers don't understand all the layers of the narrative or of the writing. So, yeah, be kind to yourself. Already reading in English, reading a whole book in English is already a win, and it's already a big achievement. So keep on reading, and you'll get better at it. That's like everything, like any sports, actually. A language is really something that you have to practice every day. So, next quote here. So here, the narrator is criticizing, well, from Laura's point of view, is describing here how what Laura think about her brother. Laura also thought that. Oh, sorry. Uh, Here. But she fed, so she, Caroline, she fed his vanity and ministered to his imperiousness. So you see the choice of vocabulary, imperiousness, um, like an emperor. Um, Laura also thought that the law had done a great deal to spoil Henry. It had changed his natural sturdy stupidity into a brow-beating indifference to other people's point of view. So, in other terms, he doesn't care about other people, who doesn't listen to other people's view. He seemed to consider himself briefed by his creator to turn into ridicule the opinions of those who disagreed with him and to attribute dishonesty, idiocy, or a base motive of everyone who supported a better case than he. Um, so yes, she has very harsh words, very strong words here in this criticism here of her brother. Then she reaches, she later on in the book, she reaches her mid-40s and she has a sudden awakening at dinner, surrounded by her family members. And then at this moment, she decides that this masquerade stops here. She doesn't want this life anymore. She doesn't want to lie to herself anymore. And this quote really embodies this sudden revelation that she's at the table and she's looking at everyone and she's just saying stop to it. And that asks, that asks a lot of courage, determination to say no to that comfortable life. And but at the same time, she's not happy with this comfortable life and familiar surrounding. So page 60 here. During dinner, Laura looked at her relations. She felt as though she had awoken, unchanged, for 20 years' slumber, to find them almost unrecognizable, as if she was looking at them on a different light now. At this point, they haven't changed. She has changed. Her point of view, her perspective, her perception of them has changed. She surveyed them, one after the other. Even Henry and Caroline, whom she saw every day, were half hidden under their accumulation, and there is a repetition here, accumulations of prosperity, authority, and daily experience. They were carpeted, from carpet, yeah, carpeted with experience. No new event could set jarring foot on them, but they would absorb and muffle the impact. So, as if nothing could happen in their life that could shake them, because they are so, in a way, how to say, comfortable, or because they are part of this high class status and rank in the society. Well, so basically, they're rich people living in London, and well, she has inheritance, but she can't use that money. I mean, her brother is looking have after her own money, and basically, it feels almost like almost nothing could, as if nothing could shake their stable life and routine. And she despises that, as if everything was definite or finite. And that's what she realizes at this point of her life. She's in her mid 40s, nearly approaching 50, and you can see how long it took her to make this realization. I mean, we are in the it's the early 20th century. It's 1920. It's just after the First World War. So women, it's difficult for women to be able to be independent. So after a couple of months living, so now after this realization, she decides to leave London, and she's determined, even though her brother is trying to discourage her. She decides to live for Great Mop, which is I don't know. It's north countryside, North London in the countryside. Um, and after a couple of months living in Great Mop, she finally starts enjoying her life and comes to the realization of how happy and at peace she is now. So there is this beautiful quote here that highlight this. The weight of all her unhappy years seemed for a moment to weigh her bosom down to the earth. She trembled, understanding for the first time how miserable she had been. And in another moment she was released. It was all gone. It could never be again, and never had been. Tears of thankfulness ran down her face. With every breath she drew, the scent of the cowslips is a flower, yellow flower, flowed in and absorbed her. She was changed and knew it. She was humbler and more simple. She seized the triumph mentally over her tyrants and rallied herself no longer with the consciousness that she had outraged sorry, and rallied herself no longer with the consciousness that she had outraged them by coming to live at Great Mop. Almost here as if she was letting go of all her rage and anger against her family, who wanted to keep her in London, and who made her miserable for so many years, for these years. But also, she's not just blaming, here there is subtext here, because she's not just blaming, they're just collateral damages of the society and of the patriarchal society, basically. She here, if she has someone to blame, is patriarchal society and history and civilization, who which always tried which has always tried to put women down and put them aside, whether if it was in the 11th or 12th century with the witch hunt, or even before during the ancient Greece, or whatever, or later on, or throughout the centuries. Then her the guilt is, well, if she has to blame someone, he's those it's history basically, and her brother, her family are just applying what society has constructed, what men have constructed, and their vision of women, through the eyes of men, but also women. What a woman should be, what is she supposed to, how she's supposed to act, and towards her husband, be devoted and be a loving wife and submissive. Well, she says, fuck that. Right. Um, it really is like a victory to her to have managed to escape from the grip of her brother, who, by the way, lost half of her money in bad investment in the stock market and didn't want her to claim her money back. That's also a very interesting passage when she realizes that he lost her money, because, of course, at the death of her father, her inheritance got to her her brother was in the care of this money. And because this is not his money, he doesn't care, so he invested it in different stock markets and lost half of her money. So that, yeah, and so when she wants to claim it back to be able to be independent in Great Mop, then he has to. He doesn't want to reveal that information to her, but then she pushed him, and she realizes that this idiot lost her money. So not only does she have to fight for her independence, but she also has to face the betrayal of her brother, sorry, and fight for her money in order to become financially independent. And when she finally believes that she is free from any nuisance or any interference from her family, her charming nephew Titus interrupts her peaceful and quiet life in Great Mop when he decides to move there, and so in the same village as her. And then her old self resurfaces, and she hates it. And that there is a beautiful quote here. In vain, so page 109. In vain, she had tried to escape. Transient and delusive had been her ecstasies of relief. She had thrown away 20 years of her life like a handful of old rags. But the wind had blown them back again and dressed her in the old uniform. This is a very beautiful metaphor. The fact that, imagine this, well, try to picture this idea of that she's throwing their old clothes, almost like old rags, or like old tissues, or old clothes that don't want to wear anymore, or almost like she was removing her throwing away the dresses that she used to wear in London, that she considers as rags. And now that he's back, she's dressed. Well, the wind has brought them back to her, and she's wearing this uniform, this facade. Again, she's dressed into her old self, the old, so the old Lolly, Aunt Lolly. The wind blew steadily from the old quarter. It was the same east wind that chived bits of waste paper down Absolute Terrace. And she was the same old Aunt Lolly, so useful and obliging and negligible. Yeah. So this is terribly sad for her at this point of the book. But towards the end of the book, so I will not reveal whether he stays or not. I don't want. I spoiled you a little bit, quite a lot, so I don't want to say too much. I want you to discover by yourself. So towards the end of the book, Laura starts having meaningful conversation with someone that she calls Satan or the devil, or even the loving huntsman. She qualifies him as the loving huntsman, or the narrator. It's not Lolly who speaks directly, it's the narrator. Which is actually the subtitle of the novel. It's Lolly, well, we only read Lolly Willowes, but we can see here inside the book, it's Lolly Willowes or The Loving Huntsman. Yeah, and you can see here. So here, Satan is, to me, the allegory of man's possessiveness and patriarchal oppression, because somehow, wherever she is, he always finds a way to get to her. He always finds her. And to me, it is there in her conversation, or I could say debates with him. It's almost like they have debates with one another, with the devil, that lies the core message of this book. There, in Laura's advocacy for the restoration of witches' image and story, and thus the perception that patriarchal society holds against women, calling them dull or silly. So here, to me, is the message of the book. So here, there's this quote, page 153. It's like this. When I think of witches, I seem to see all over England, all over Europe, women living and growing old, as blackberries, and as unregarded. I see them wives and sisters of respectable men, chapel members and blacksmiths, and small farmers and Puritans, in places like Bedfordshire, the sort of country one sees from the train, you know. Well, there they were. There they are. Child rearing. Child rearing is a synonym of childbearing, the fact that they are raising children, the process of raising a child. Child rearing, housekeeping, hanging washed dish clothes on currant bushes, and for diversion, each other silly's conversation, and listening to men talking together in the way that men talk and women listen. Quite different to the way women talk. Quite different to the way women talk and men listen, if they listen at all. And all the time being thrust further down into dullness when the one thing all women hate is to be thought dull. This is such a powerful passage here because um, this this is the illusion that we believe that for centuries now, luckily, society has evolved, has changed, but still there are so many stereotypes and around women and what women are capable of, especially in politics and in position of power. And here, she contradicts all these old says old saying or old perceptions, making believe that women are not smart enough, are not capable enough. She says, no, you're all wrong. So in this passage, Sylvia is making it rather clear that she doesn't want to believe this discourse about women being dull, but argues that women are everything but silly and dull. All they want is the exact opposite. They want freedom, they want independence, they want extravagance. The word is repeated several times at the beginning of the novel, as if women have to hide, not draw attention to themselves. But this is actually false because they want extravagance as well as the women, as the men like to do. They want adventure and they want to have a life of one's own. And that's a quote here. Actually, my last quote here in this presentation, not presentation, in this episode. The last quote that I want to mention here in this podcast. So here I'm reading a passage where she is where the narrator is mentioning that quote, to have a life of one's own. So page 156 here, we can read. One doesn't become a witch to run around being harmful or to run around being helpful either. A district visitor on a broomstick. It's to escape all that. To have a life of one's own. Not an existence doled out to you by others. Doled here is means an existence that is given to you, or like being controlled by someone else, that we give to you. So it's this idea of that you're not in control of your life. We dictate what your life is going to be. And I love this quote here. It is really here the foundation of what will become a classic and a great success of Virginia Woolf, A Room of One's Own. So here lays the foundation of this desire, this profound desire in women from the 1920s to have a life of their own and be in control of their life and their future, or in control of their life, and be financially independent as well. So here, Townsend Warner is saying that a woman doesn't become a witch to harm or please anyone, or to be useful. This is the old perception of witches who are being ugly first of all, when you look at how witches are described um, in children's stories, or just look at Disneyland, the White Snow. Snow White, sorry, Snow White, and the witch, all the witches, how the witches are um, drawn or described, being ugly with this big nose and those ugly faces, and being terrible, being the mean character in the story, when actually what we call women, that we call witches, were simply women in the medieval time, um, were often, if not always, women who wanted to escape a violent husband, or violent marriage and unhappy marriage. Simply women that wanted to have a life of their own and escape a miserable existence. Because, as you probably know, women didn't, for centuries, women didn't have the right, well, men as well, but they had a bit more say than women. They were being married off to very often an old guy. They were like 16 and they were marrying someone that was 40, which was very old at the time, and couldn't say anything. And Sometimes they were lucky and he would die early, or he would be kind to them. Their husband would be kind. But often it happened that these men didn't respect their wives, young wives, and were violent with them and raped them. Um, and I think there are countless stories about these women's. So here is what Townsend Warner is advocating for. She's advocating for women, and also the image. She wants to restorate or change the image that we have on witches, and explain that she becomes that these women, or Lolly in particular, becomes a witch for her own survival. And Virginia Woolf understood that perfectly in her essay, A Room of One's Own, which got published 3 years after this book. So Sylvia Townsend Warner and Virginia Woolf were contemporaries. Virginia Woolf was older. I think she was 10 years older than Sylvia Townsend Warner. But this book got published 3 years prior to A Room of One's Own. So we might think that Virginia Woolf read that book, and the idea of having someone to yourself, grow probably in her mind, and she dedicate, and that might explain. But I think it's a whole movement at the time of women. Of this women of this idea from women that they want to have their own space. They pleading or advocating for their own space and their own say, and their say in their lives. So there, it feels as if she, in this book, A Room of One's Own, it feels as if she has taken Warner's idea and enhanced it further to emphasize the urgent need for women's emancipation and empowerment, that later we will um, qualify as empowerment. Empowerment. Uh, Although empowerment, yeah, sorry. Although, sorry, I blanked. Although the two women lived during the same time period, and knew about each other, they were never intimate friends. That's a shame because I think that they would have been great friends. So I feel sorry for them. They never got to get to know each other more closely. Anyway, it is for all these reasons that I highly encourage you to read and immerse yourself into Lolly Willowes. To me, this book is again the living proof that narratives around women have been constructed and that for years and centuries, women have yearned for their independence without being blamed for it. So that's it for me. Um, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you want to join the book club, have a go at it, then subscribe to the newsletter. The link is in the description of this video or in the description of the podcast. You can join us during one of our test sessions for free. Have a go, join us, and see if yeah, you would like to continue and meet us. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really hope that you will read Lolly Willowes. If you do, please leave a comment below this video uh, in the or leave a comment in the Spotify podcast. Let me know what you think about the book. I'd be happy to read you. And if you like this content, subscribe to the YouTube channel or the Spotify podcast so that more people can enjoy this content. Hopefully, happy reading. Bye bye.